IMF and World Bank, conceived in the aftermath of the Second World War 80 years ago, continue to be dominated by wealthy nations, resulting in persistent inequities and limited voice for developing countries and poor nations. In response, one of the most viable pathways for Africa and for regional economic blocs like COMESA is to strengthen our homegrown multilateral financial institutions such as Trade Development Bank, Afrexim Bank, Africa Finance Corporation, Shelter Afrique, Africa Re, and the Africa Trade and Investment Development Insurance and ZEPRI. These institutions, ladies and gentlemen, embody our collective determination to mobilize African capital for African priorities. We may recall that Trade and Development Bank, for example, was established under the preferential trade area, the precursor of COMESA, and has since evolved into the financial arm of our common market, driving regional trade, investment, and sustainable development. That is why here in Kenya, we are backing our words with action. Having already committed US $50 million as share capital to Afrexim Bank, we have just additionally invested $100 million to enhance our shareholding in Trade and Development Bank. And my good friend Tadesse, the CEO, is at the corner there. These African-led banks are proving to be true partners in progress. Through our participation, Kenya can now access long-term facilities of up to 25 years at reasonable concessional interest rates, tangible proof that investing in our own institutions yields real and sustainable value. By strengthening and capitalizing these entities, we are deepening regional financial integration and ensuring that Africa's development is financed on terms that reflect our realities, our priorities, and our aspirations. Excellencies, intra-COMESA trade, though improving, still accounts for a very small share of total trade. Africa, as we all know, and I was looking at the numbers this morning, only contributes 3% to global trade. And as we also know, intra-Africa trade, and I'm sure my brother Wamkele is here, is only 14% of all our trade. If you compare with Europe, 70% of their trade is intra-European. They trade 70% of their products within Europe. In Asia, they trade 60% of all their products and services within Asia. In Africa, we are only doing 14%. And that is why our contribution to global trade is only 3%, because we are not trading first and foremost with ourselves. And the reason why we are not trading with ourselves, and that is why the essence of COMESA, the reason why we are not trading with ourselves is because we have unlimited barriers. Just imagine that in the European Union, 26 countries, they have a single visa. Therefore, their people can move much more freely. In COMESA, with the, let's say, the tripartite agreement, we have 27 countries and 27 visas to be able to travel. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, how we are going to catch up with the rest of the world if we are going to have this visa and that visa and the other visa to cross this border and the other border and the next border.
Yes, here we are. Welcome and greetings, all of you, my dear lovely family, brothers and sisters. You heard just a preamble from President William Samoei Ruto that the continent of Africa has a lot of visas. while our former colonizers, Europe has only a single visa where Europeans can move freely from one place to another. My question to you is when Africa will unite? Because all these things is because of this unity among Africans. So for centuries, Africa has cried for unity, one voice, one dream, one destiny, from Kwame Nkrumah's vision to Captain Ibrahim Traoré's courage, from the Sahel to the Cape, from the Nile to the Kalahari. The call for African unity echoes louder than ever. Everywhere where you engage Africans, Africans are calling for the unity. My question, or the question, when will Africa truly unite? Because leaders are speaking. And of course, I'm very happy. Even President Ruto has given example of Europe. Why we give example of Europe? That Europe, I mean, Europe has done this, Europe has done that, Asia has done this, Asia has done that. Why we don't even learn? Why we learn democracy from Europe? Why we learn multipartism from Europe? Why we cannot learn unity? Why we learn uh, things that, of course, recently you heard about um, this what we call cultural activities. We are copying from Europe. Why we are not copying unity if we are real Africans, we want changes. So in this video, brothers and sisters, I brought to you some speeches from our leaders talking about unity. And also I want to hear from you. What is your perspective? What is your thought on the issue of unity among Africans? When you see Africans or African continent will come together, speak with one voice, united. I listened to last week President of Botswana, President Duma Gideon Boko, and um, President of Namibia, Her Excellency Madam Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa, sign agreements of by national commission, where these two countries, I mean Botswana and Namibia, will work together in several sectors like energy and oil, I mean natural gas and oil, in the sector of uranium, sector of minerals. So why not as a SADC? Why not as a SADC? Why as an individual countries? And of course, 2 weeks ago, I saw, I think in Zambia, when Zambian president welcomed the European Union delegation. So just imagine, Europeans are discussing with Zambia. Why not SADC with Zambia? Why not African Union um, with European Union? Because recently we are going to have to see that summit. But why these uh, African nations want to work individually? Why we are not even try to come together? Of course, I suggested one day that if we have lived for more than 50 years uh, without unity, why don't we try to live at least for 10 years into unity? Let us try, do that research. If we are serious, we want to make changes in this continent. Why we are still working in individual? So, family, let us continue with our this video from President Ruto. Then I will come to another part of the video from President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa, also from President Duma Gideon Boko. Let us listen just a little from President Ruto.
So I want to commend my brother, President Ndayishimiye, this morning for announcing that Burundi is going to join countries in our continent that today are thinking about eliminating visa requirements for Africans to travel within our continent. Secondly, is the issue of trade barriers. We have signed beautiful agreements, but we are not translating those agreements into real movement of products and people on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, we must move from competition amongst ourselves to cooperation and collaboration. From exporting raw materials to building value chains that retain wealth within our borders. At the same time, the question of continental integration must go beyond trade agreements and shared markets. It must also embrace the free movement of people, goods, and services across our borders.
Elements. I think my friend said there's no voice. The voice is not okay. I think at that time the voice is okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me try it. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Somebody said no audio, no audio. What about that? What about that? No audio. But in all, families, brothers and sisters, what we're talking here is about unity and integration. So let us continue with President Ruto.
True integration will only be achieved when an African can travel, work, and invest freely anywhere within our continent. I will give you some numbers. When we decided as Kenya that we are going to open our borders to Africans and limit the requirements of visa, our visitors from Africa have doubled. Africa's strength lies in its openness and unity. We are optimistic that our sister countries across the continent will take similar steps. True integration will only be achieved when we may unlock African potential of a borderless, connected, and prosperous Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, our growth must be inclusive, uplifting micro, small, and medium enterprises, empowering women and youth, and ensuring that every citizen becomes a stakeholder in our shared prosperity. Equally, sustainability must be central to our development model. We are stewards of a rich natural heritage, and we owe it to future generations to pursue growth that protects our environment. Excellencies, all these ambitions rest on unshakable foundations: peace, security, and stability. There can be no development without peace and no investment without stability. We must therefore strengthen our collective capacity to prevent conflict, manage disputes peacefully, and uphold democracy, good governance, and the rule of law. This must remain our highest and most sacred duty. The government and the people of Kenya are ready to play our part. In accepting the chairmanship of this great common market, I pledge to serve as a dedicated, energetic, and collaborative partner, working with each of you to advance the COMESA vision of a shared prosperity, integration, and transformation. Together, we can build a COMESA that is digital, that is dynamic, and deeply inclusive, a bloc that truly reflects the promise of a rising Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for choosing Kenya, coming to Kenya, and sharing this moment with us. And thank you very much for your audience. Asanteni sana.
Another warm clap for the chair, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto. And now we will progress to maiden statements. And to start us off, allow me to now invite His Excellency Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of Comoros, to make his statement. Let's give him a clap as he now approaches the stage. Welcome, sir.
Yes, brothers and sisters, let us now move on. So right now I want to share a speech made by two leaders of Namibia and Botswana. Also, they've spoken about the issue of unity. Here is some of their parts of their speeches.
Excellence, we will carry very fond memories of this bi-national commission meeting. When I spoke to you earlier, I indicated that we are prosecuting a revolution. And a revolution is an episode of convulsive political transformation, compressed in time and determinate in outcome. We met today. We mapped out our desired goals and outcomes. We crafted strategies for the realization of these goals. Words have been spoken, plans drawn, examples enacted. The time now is for the translation of those words into action. Because I recall a conversation between two Shakespearean characters in Shakespeare's King Henry IV, The one says to the other, you know, I can do things. I can call spirits from the vast deep. The other one says, yes, so can I, and so can anybody else. But will they come when you do call for them? That's the brutally devastating question that faces us today. We've spoken, we've drawn plans, we've laid out outlines towards certain goals, summoning outcomes, calling from the vast deep. Critical question, will they come when we do call for them? That is the question we all must answer in the unfolding future. And now we begin the march, forward strides. Our gaze fixed firmly on a future we are willing to embrace and to confront. And so now, on this occasion, I will not stop talking. I will simply pause so that we continue the march. Thank you so very much for the privilege of your company here today and the pleasure of your kind attention. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now I have the honor and privilege to invite Her Excellency Dr. Netumbo Nandi
Yes,
Ndaitwah,
brothers and sisters, before
President of
allowing,
the Republic of Namibia
Madam
and
Netumbo
Chair
Nandi
of the
Ndaitwah
BNC,
speak,
to
I
deliver
heard from President Duma Gideon Boko, the President of Botswana, talking about time is now. Time is now for action, not for just planning. If you look very keenly, you'll understand that Africa or Africans, we have good plans. If you go into shelves and into books, Africans, we have a lot of plans, good plans, but when it comes for implementation, that's where Africans, we are failing. So if we are serious, as I said, as I asked in the question, that when will Africa unite? If we are serious, we want to unite, let us unite now. Let us unite now. Because if you don't unite now, division will continue. Right now, you have seen what is happening in Madagascar, what is happening in Cote d'Ivoire, what is happening in Cameroon. In the near future, we are going to see Africans being divided more than before. Right now, I see the signs of tribalism, the signs of tribalism across the continent. In some various countries, we have seen tribalism starting growing up. So if we don't unite now, it will be difficult for we Africans to unite. So let us now move on and hear from Mama Her Excellence Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah, the president of Namibia, when she
our
invited
concluding remarks, and I believe
Duma
formally
Gideon Boko.
close the session or second session of the Namibia-Botswana Bi-National Commission. Your Excellency.
Please be seated. Thank you, Director of Ceremonies, Advocate Bok, the co-chair of this Binational Commission and President of the Republic of Botswana, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, and all of us present here. We are now approaching the conclusion of the second Botswana-Namibia Binational Commission. We have had thorough discussions on matters which were before us. We are here delegated by our citizens, and this is now the time for us that as we go back to our respective offices, we have to count for what they have sent us here for. This gathering definitely has been very extraordinary, serving as a key moment in strengthening the ties between our two countries. It is inspiring to reflect on how our discussions have went, and definitely they will improve on our bilateral relations, and it will definitely open new opportunities for our cooperation. The 5 days we have been here, I can see they have been very productive, from the sessions of our senior officials and experts to the meeting of the ministers and our meeting today. The comprehensive report that was presented to us by our ministers was very vital, as it represents as a roadmap by outlining where we should go in our bilateral cooperation. It highlighted the achievements and the areas where we need improvement. And I sincerely want to thank our ministers and our senior officials or civil servants for their hard work and dedication. We acknowledge our accomplishment, but we know we are facing challenges, and we must make sure that we implement what we have agreed here. The 8th Memorandum of Understanding we have signed during this session represents a significant deepening of our partnership and clear expression of our collective, and we are expected to implement them in order to make sure that our cooperation makes or add value to what we want to do for our people. These cooperations range from energy, resources. We talk about employment creation. It's about science and technology. It's about innovation. It's very holistic. We are talking of everything that we need in order to serve our people better. I must specifically say I'm encouraged by our discussions on our natural resources beneficiation, because for too long, Africa has been allowing her natural resources to leave the continent unprocessed. By implication, exporting labor of our young people to other continents. We have agreed to work together in order to ensure that our natural resources remains in our continent for the benefit of our people. The documents we have agreed, we have set timelines. And for our ministers, these timelines, you proposed them, we endorsed them. The fact that you propose them is because you know you are able to work within those time frames, and there should be no excuse. As heads of state, we will play our part, and our part is to give you political support. You have it. You have our political support. If there is anything that's getting into your way, come to us. So we want you to be on top of everything and to ensure that these agreements we have signed are implemented. That's the only way we can account for the resources the people of the two countries have spent on us. We are here, we came here, we traveled on airplanes, we are sleeping in hotels, we are working in air-conditioned rooms like these ones, but this is not our money. It's taxpayers' money. And that's why we must deliver as they expect. Mr. President, as I conclude, with all expectation and belief that our ministers, our civil servants are not going to let us down. They will perform, they will deliver, and next time when we meet, we will only acknowledge the good work which is done. I really want to thank you once again for accepting our invitation and for your leadership, your friendship, and commitment for our two countries to work together in order to bring about shared prosperities to our two nations. I have to thank you for having accepted last night to participate and to view with me a documentary film that is based on my life. But as we've all seen, it represents the whole of Namibia, the aspiration of the Namibian people, and exactly as you mentioned at the beginning, that there is high expectation from our citizens from this administration. It was obvious last night on the film. People in the rural Namibia, the way they were talking. So therefore, we have a task to perform. We must continue to work together and let this binational commission be a platform, not just for planning, but a platform for execution. As I look forward to the third session of our Binational Commission, which will be hosted in the Republic of Botswana in 2027, I reaffirm Namibia's commitment to ensure that the set objectives are achieved. Together, let us light the way towards a prosperous future for our nations, characterized by shared success and lasting friendship. As you have rightly said, Mr. President, and all delegates, to celebrate the success of our meeting and express our appreciation for your visit, it's my great pleasure to invite you, dear brother, and your delegation to a luncheon hosted in your honor. With this, thanking each and every one of you, it's now my privilege to declare the second session of the Binational Commission between Botswana and Namibia officially closed. And thank you very much.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard from Her Excellency Madam Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, the President of Namibia, speaking during the conclusion meeting with President Duma Gideon Boko when signed bilateral agreements by National Commission between Botswana and Namibia. But if you listen, all leaders, all of them are talking about unity, 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 working together, working together. So why? Because these two leaders have decided to work together. What about the rest? What about the rest in SADC? I think this is the good beginning, and we wish more African leaders to join President Duma Gideon Boko and President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah to form one of the biggest alliance in the southern part, because we have seen the giant alliance in the western part, I mean Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, and right now we have seen SADC member of SADC forming their own alliance, Botswana and Namibia. So I think this must uh, go beyond uh, two countries. This must cover the SADC region. So, my dear lovely family, brothers and sisters, of that you have no more to share. The aim is to share the message of unity among Africans and asking the question, when will Africa unite, speak with one voice? So, if you have any answers, please share with us your answers through the comment section. And if you're new to this platform, make sure that you like, you subscribe to join the Biggie family of Make Africa Great. After that, you have no more to share. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. See you next time. Thank you.